Hello, everyone. Before we start the webinar, DRCT staff needs to enable the interpretation feature. Everybody will need to select the English or Spanish channel. Once the interpretation feature is enabled, please go to the globe symbol at the bottom of your screen. A picture of the globe is circled in yellow on the screen if you want a visual reference. Please click on the globe and choose either English or Spanish. Even if you are participating in English, you still need to select that option, or you will not hear any translations of Spanish-speaking participants' questions and comments. Our interpreter will provide these instructions in Spanish before we enable interpretation. We will then give people a moment to choose their preferred language. Thank you.
Johanna?
Okay, yes. So, antes de empezar, para la transmisión necesitamos activar el idioma que quieren escoger. Necesitan seleccionar en el globo amarillo que está en la parte de abajo, seleccionan el idioma, ya sea español o inglés. Si prefieren inglés, no importa, igual tienen que seleccionar el inglés para poder activar el acceso a interpretación.
Interpretation is now enabled, so please choose a language.
La interpretación ya está habilitada. Por favor, escoja un lenguaje, español o inglés.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Thanks, Kelly. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on voting Know Your Rights. Today's webinar is funded by a grant from the Connecticut Developmental Disabilities Council. My name is Mike Wilby. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager at Disability Rights Connecticut and will be today's facilitator. My pronouns are he and him. I am a Black male. I have on black rimmed glasses and I am wearing a white shirt with black and brown striped tie. Before we get started, I would like to discuss a few housekeeping items. If you have a question or comment, please use the raise your hand feature and you will be unmuted by the moderator. It can be found in the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen. Please remember to introduce yourself before you speak. As mentioned at the very beginning, please choose your preferred language, English or Spanish, under the interpretation tab to listen to the webinar in English or Spanish. There will be real-time captioning in English. In addition to Spanish interpretation, there is also an American Sign Language interpreter. We have spotlighted the interpreter to ensure they stay on your screen. Please make sure you are in speaker view. If you experience any difficulties accessing any of these accommodations, please put a note in the chat and we will respond as soon as possible. Finally, if you have a general question, please send it to the chat box as well and we will try to respond to it. I would like to begin today's presentation with a land acknowledgement. For those who are not familiar with that, a land acknowledgement is a formal statement that recognizes and respects Native peoples as traditional stewards of lands. The statement highlights the enduring relationship between Native peoples and their traditional territories. The statement that I'm about to read comes from the University of Connecticut's Native American Cultural Programs. By acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the territory of the Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill Pagosset, Nipmuc, and Lenape peoples, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We thank them for their strength and resilience in protecting this land and aspire to uphold our responsibilities according to their example. Thank you. Our speakers and presentations for this afternoon include Casey Considine, Supervising Attorney for Disability Rights Connecticut, Kathy Flaherty, Executive Director at Connecticut Legal Rights Project, and Bonnie Roswick, Director of Disability Rights Project, Medical Legal Partnership at the Center for Children's Advocacy. After our three presenters, we will then take a 5-minute break before watching a short video and finishing the presentation. At this time, I would like to turn things over to our first presenter, Supervising Attorney for Disability Rights Connecticut, Casey Considine. Casey?
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. As Mike said, I'm Casey. I am a white woman with short brown hair. I am wearing tortoiseshell glasses, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm going to share my screen with everyone, and I look forward to talking with you all about voting rights. Is everyone able to see my screen? Okay. Disability rights for voters with disabilities are really important for a number of reasons, but I think it's important to start with the historical disenfranchisement that voters with disabilities have experienced. Disenfranchisement means that people with disabilities, particularly those with intellectual disabilities, certain developmental disabilities, and mental health disabilities, have been prevented from voting because there have been a lot of prejudicial, stereotypical assumptions made about them and about their ability to vote. Additionally, there have been a number of architectural accessibility issues that have prevented voters with disabilities from being able to exercise their right to vote. There are, unfortunately, a lot of persisting examples where people who use wheelchairs or other mobility aids like walkers or canes have been unable to enter polling places and cast their ballot because there wasn't a ramp, or have been required to wait in long lines and have not been provided chairs that would allow them to rest and sit as needed. Additionally, people who are blind or have low vision historically have not been able to cast their ballot because the ballot itself was completely inaccessible to them, and the voting system, the voting machine, similarly have been inaccessible. So these are a number of reasons why voters with disabilities have needed to advocate for their rights to vote, just as all citizens have the right to vote. There are a number of federal laws that protect disabled voters that I think are worth mentioning so that everyone is aware of them. The first is one that you may be familiar with, especially if you've joined one of our webinars before, and that's the Americans with Disabilities Act, specifically Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It requires state and local governments to ensure qualified individuals with disabilities have a full and equal opportunity to vote. So this means reasonable modifications must be made in order to ensure that a voter is not disenfranchised because of their disability. The other is the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act. It protects both elderly voters and voters with disabilities. And it does so by establishing additional requirements that states must meet to improve polling place access for elderly individuals and for people with disabilities during federal elections. HAVA is the Help America Vote Act. It sets certain requirements for federal elections as well. And this includes a requirement for there to be a accessible voting machine, particularly for those who are blind and have low vision. Every polling location is required to have an accessible voting machine. And in fact, if you encounter a polling place that does not have one, there are a number of places that you could contact to report that, because certainly no one should have their right to vote infringed upon because of an accessibility issue. So you may be wondering what these three laws do for voters with disabilities. We're talking about the ADA, and we're talking about full and equal opportunity for qualified individuals to participate in all government programs. That means you cannot be excluded from participating in voting, which is something that states and municipalities run on the basis of your disability. And for voters with disabilities, this applies to all parts of the voting process. So voter registration, if a voter needs a reasonable modification to the voter registration system, for example, they need the voter registration application to be provided to them in large print in an alternative format. That's something that the state is required to provide. A person may also need a reasonable modification in casting a ballot, and they may need reasonable modifications when it comes to ballot drop boxes. As with other provisions in the ADA, reasonable modifications must be provided if they do not pose a fundamental alteration or an undue burden. And really the goal of these federal laws is to require states, cities, and towns to not only improve physical access for when voters with disabilities come to the polling place to cast their vote, but also to ensure that before the voter with a disability gets to the polling place, they have not encountered accessibility barriers that have infringed on their right to become a registered voter and to receive information about the candidates and apply for an absentee ballot. Any of the activities that are available to any voter should similarly be available to voters with disabilities. Voter registration. If you have been to a DRCT event, you know that we often bring information about voter registration. Voters with disabilities are a very large voting bloc and an important one. There are a lot of very important election issues that impact issues of concern for the disability community. So I definitely always start by asking if everyone is registered to vote. In Connecticut, there are a number of ways that you can register to vote. You could do so online. You could do so through a paper form. And Connecticut also has what's called Election Day registration. That means that you are able to register to vote on Election Day and cast a provisional ballot. So there really is no reason why someone shouldn't register to vote. And certainly if the reason is an accessibility barrier, we'd be very interested to hear and see what we could do to request a reasonable modification to remove that barrier. Some examples of reasonable modifications are large print or otherwise alternative formats for the voter registration form. It's the online registration system being made screen reader compatible. It could also mean that someone receives assistance in filling out a voter registration form, particularly for voters who have print disabilities. Sometimes filling in the form itself or filling in the online registration can pose an accessibility barrier, and someone could request assistance to fill it out. It's worth noting that a state cannot categorically disqualify all individuals who have an intellectual disability or a mental health disability from registering to vote or from actually voting because of their disability. that is illegal disability discrimination. So if someone says to you, oh, well, if you have an intellectual disability, you can't vote, you can't register to vote, or, oh, if you have a mental health disability, you can't vote, you can't register to vote. Those types of categorical exclusions of people who are a part of different disability communities just aren't permitted. Similarly, if you use a mobility aid and you go to your polling place and are told that because you can't go up the stairs, you're not able to come in and cast your vote, that's also impermissible. People who use mobility aids cannot categorically be disqualified from voting. So I'm going to ask our co-presenters to come on into the conversation. Kathy, if I have a conservator, does that mean that I can't vote?
Absolutely not. Thanks for asking me the question, Casey. A lot of people sometimes think that if a conservator has been appointed for them, that they lose their rights. But the law in Connecticut, and I want to make sure I make it clear, this is just the law in Connecticut. This may be different in different states. But a person who has a conservator retains all rights that are not specifically taken away by the probate court judge at the time the conservatorship is established. So that means if the court's ruling says nothing about the person's ability to cast a vote, they retain their right to vote. If people have questions about what a conservatorship means in terms of their right to vote, they can certainly reach out to Connecticut Legal Rights Project or to Disability Rights Connecticut to check with a lawyer who can give you more specific advice about your situation. And people should know that if they're in a hospital facility, being in a Demas state-operated psychiatric hospital does not mean that you lose your right to vote. And the folks in the advocacy department there do a very good job of working with people to find out if they're interested in voting and make arrangements for people to be able to vote when it's time to cast a ballot.
Bonnie, can I ask you to ask the next question on the slide?
Yes, thank you, Casey. So similar to your question to Kathy, what about if an individual has a guardian? How does that affect their ability to vote?
It's a good question. In Connecticut, the guardianship statutes, meaning if you are appointed a guardian by the probate court, do not automatically take away your right to vote. A lot of people think that those who have a guardian, those who have an intellectual disability, do not have the right to vote, and that's not true. Unfortunately, in Connecticut law, there is a specific part of the guardianship statutes that allow a guardian to petition the probate court, which means a person with an intellectual disability's guardian could go to the probate court and say, probate court, I would like for you to make a determination whether this person with an intellectual disability can retain their right to vote. It's not a frequently used process from what we've heard, but it is a process to be aware of. So unless there is a probate court order where a probate court judge has said, I have made a determination that this person with an intellectual disability does not have the right to vote, without that piece of paper, without that determination by a probate court judge, a person with a guardian retains their right to vote. And just as Kathy mentioned, if anyone with an intellectual disability, if anyone with a guardian has any questions about that and has questions about whether or not they have the right to vote, or if they're being told by a service provider or their guardian that they don't have the right to vote, they're welcome to contact Disability Rights Connecticut to ask questions. Okay, our next slide is a world premiere video. We have not yet shared this publicly. And I want to make sure that before we dive in, we take an opportunity to have a brief intermission, a brief break, just as Mike had mentioned at the beginning. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment. And I believe we're taking a break for about 5 minutes. Is that right, Kaylee?
Yes.
Great. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in about 5 minutes. And if you have any questions from the first part of the presentation, please feel free to come back with them and raise your hand or put them in the chat. See you soon. Okay, we'll give everyone a moment or two to rejoin us. And if you do have any questions, again, you're welcome to raise your hand or to put them in the chat. And as we all start coming back, I think, Priscilla, we can start the video.
As a person with a disability, I want my voice heard. It's imperative that there are places that we can go and we can cast our ballot like every other American citizen.
We are not just one. We are a team of 60 million Americans strong. And when we vote, it is for our tomorrow, our futures, and for the next generation of Americans with disabilities. We must pave the way.
It's important for those of us with disabilities to vote because that is the only way we're going to have a voice in the policies of this country.
Where we're the loudest is at the voting booth.
And when that ballot comes out the printer and I walk over and I put it in the box, get that sticker, there's a feeling I get that I'm part of the rest of my community.
After voting, I feel awesome and empowered.
I just want people to understand that people with disabilities, we have every right of voting, even if we need help.
Polling place accessibility is required by the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Polling places have found ways to accommodate the needs of each and every one of us.
Everyone has the right to equal access. And what the voting rights laws do is create a level playing field. Some person might need a ramp to do it. Another person might need an electronic ballot system to do it. Another person might need a wider door clearance to be able to vote. Everyone has the right to vote. The goal is the same.
I started voting when I was 18. The parking is horrific. I don't like going to vote simply because of that.
First thing you want to look at is parking. Are there 2 wheelchair accessible spaces? They should be closest to the entrance, ideally not on a hill, not on a slope. After the parking space being accessible, you have to have an accessible path of travel. What that means is there's no obstructions in the path of travel. There isn't broken sidewalk that's dangerous. These are all tripping hazards, by the way, and dangerous for everyone. When there's a ramp at an entrance, it can't have a slope of greater than 1 in 12. What that means is for every 1 inch of rise, there has to be 1 foot of ramp. If a slope is more than 1 in 20, it is then a ramp. That means it must have handrails. And if it extends beyond 30 feet, there needs to be a 5x5 flat resting place after 30 feet. There needs to be a level landing of 5x5 at the top.
When I vote at an accessible polling place, it makes me feel that disabled people's votes don't count either at the local or federal level.
Inside, you want to make sure you don't have barriers. You want to have at least 36 inches of clearance. You want to make sure there's a clear path of travel for people that's not obstructed. And then when I come in to vote, I want to make sure that I can check in, that people are trained and understand that just because I am a wheelchair user, or I have an intellectual disability, or a psychiatric disability, or I'm deaf, or blind, or have a speech disability, I'm by definition adult. I wouldn't be there if I wasn't 18 years or older, legally. I'm an adult, they need to talk to me and need to treat me with respect.
On the way to pick up our ballots, someone put a paper with farm animal choices on my communication board and asked me if I wanted to vote for my favorite animal. My mother and I were really too shocked and embarrassed to say anything except that I had been voting for many years. By then, people were already staring at me.
There are a lot of times that people will say, "Why do you have that dog? You're not blind." It's embarrassing. They're singling me out. Hans is a service animal. He's protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act. He can go anywhere, and I think more people need better information.
Poll workers should know that all voters should be treated with respect. There should be a voting station with a lowered table in a private area for someone using a wheelchair. A friend of mine had a very hard time because she had to vote at the one lowered table in the middle of everyone walking around.
The worst experience I had voting was I went to my polling place and I was using my scooter and they didn't have any accessible polling stations. And they said to me, well, why don't you just have your husband vote for you? And I said, no, I need to vote for myself. And they're like, why? Privacy is essential. Lots of times people with disabilities are not respected. And one of the ways you express disrespect for someone with a disability without is to not allow them to have privacy. It implies that they're childlike. It implies that they're not to be trusted. It also implies that their ballot isn't secret like everyone else's and they don't have the same right as other citizens, that they're different.
Every person is entitled to privacy in their vote. That's why you get a privacy screen around you when you're voting. That's why you get the folders that they put your ballots in. And just because somebody has a disability and is using the accessible machine, they have that same right to privacy that we all do.
And there needs to be a ballot marking system. The great thing about the electronic ballot marking system is it can be used by anyone, not just people with disabilities. It's most beneficial to people who have difficulty accessing paper ballots.
I actually went when the polls first opened one year and they weren't set up. Sighted people were coming in to vote and they were moving along and I was sitting. I sat for probably 30 minutes.
When I went to vote, nothing seemed to be set up. You know, the computer was there, but nothing was tested. They really didn't seem to know what they were doing at first. It usually takes me maybe 15 or 20 minutes. The whole process from when I got in there to when I left it took me like 45 minutes to an hour. It made me feel like I was an afterthought.
The time that delay happened, I felt out of place. I kind of felt cast to the side, but I was determined to vote.
When we asked if they had the polling machine, they said they did, but they didn't know how to work it. So I just had to have my mom help me like she's always been.
I want to have the autonomy of voting for myself. So I use that device so that I can cast my vote myself.
A person should have the option of doing that through audio, by hearing it, or visibly by using a touch screen.
The machine gives me the right, and it gives anybody who is visually impaired the right to vote independently.
The things that we're talking about are good practices, but they're law. This is the federal law that you must do.
I think it's really important for people to know that this is a legal right they have to participate in the process. So if they do feel that their rights are being infringed upon, they should call for assistance.
I have to advocate for myself at the polling place. It's not my mom's job to advocate for me at my polling place. It's mine.
We pay taxes, we work in our communities, we have families, and we want a quality of life where our voices can be heard and we can elect our officials, those that are going to govern us.
I want poll workers to understand, and people in general, that people with disabilities are just that. We're people.
People with disabilities have a voice. We must make sure our politicians hear us on election day. We cannot just stay silent and expect things to change.
All disabilities are not always visible, and all service dogs are not always big.
It's not just our right to vote, it's our responsibility to vote.
People with disabilities have to vote. They have to find it within themselves to overcome whatever challenges are out there to get to that polling place. When you cast your own ballot for yourself, you spoke and someone has to look you in the eye and be accountable. So whether it takes a bus ride from someone, a car ride, waiting, a delay for a machine, it's worth it, because if we don't speak, we'll never be heard.
We have fought for equality. Now is our chance to show what we can do with it. It is our job to get registered. Stay informed, and on the next very important election day, cast our votes. We are Americans with disabilities, and our votes count.
For more information on the voting rights of persons with disabilities, contact Disability Rights Connecticut at 1-800-842-7303 or visit disrightsct.org.
Okay. I hope that video provided additional helpful information, particularly through the experiences and stories of some of the voters who encountered real life accessibility barriers. Hopefully it gives not only a sense of why these federal laws protecting voters with disabilities are so necessary and so important, but hopefully it's also empowering to those of you who are out there and have encountered similar accessibility barriers, to know that not only are you not alone, but these federal laws are here to ensure that just like everyone else who comes to vote, you too have the same right to cast a private vote, an independent vote. So with that, I want to make sure we touch on your plan to vote. Making a plan to vote is really important because waiting until election day means, or primaries day, means that you may not have everything that you need to have a smooth experience or to have the voting experience that you want. So one of the big questions that I think someone should ask themselves when they're making a plan to vote is, how do I want to vote? For some people, voting in person is really important, and that's understandable. They want to show up to their local polling place. They want to check in with the polling place workers. They want to feel the ballot in their hand. They want to use the accessible voting machine. They want to get the I voted sticker. There are a lot of reasons why people want to go in person to vote. Similarly, there are a lot of reasons why people want to vote absentee. Particularly with COVID, there is good reason for many people to not want to appear in person and to want to vote absentee. And if you are going to vote absentee, it's important to know that not only do you have to be registered to vote, just like if you're voting in person, but you also have to submit an application for an absentee ballot. When you fill out that application for an absentee ballot, your local registrar, the person who administers elections in your town, will know that they need to send a ballot to your house, to you where you live, so that you can vote absentee. There are specific categories of people who can vote absentee in Connecticut law. And during the public health emergency, COVID-19 has been a reason why people have been permitted to vote absentee. So it's really important to know how you want to vote so that you can make sure if you do need to fill out an application for an absentee ballot, you can do so in enough time to make sure that you get one. For those who have print disabilities or use screen readers, it is possible to get your absentee ballot emailed to you electronically. You can have electronic receipt of your ballot, although Connecticut does not yet offer electronic return of a ballot. It can make certain reasonable modifications when it comes to the signature and the envelopes that have to be used to return that ballot. So the first question to ask is, how do I want to vote? Do I want to be in person or do I want to be absentee? And for those of you who want to vote absentee, there's also the option of using absentee ballot drop boxes. They should be available in every town and municipality. And if you're voting absentee, it would be a good idea to find out where the absentee ballot drop box is in your town. If you have questions about that, you should contact your town registrar of voters so that you can get the information you need to make a plan to vote. Another piece of information you'll need if you're going to appear in person is knowing where your polling location is. That information should be available to you if you're already registered online. There's a way that you can check your voter registration status online. And when you check, it will not only confirm where you're registered to vote, for example, I'm registered to vote in Glastonbury. It'll also give you your polling location. You can also call your town registrar of voters if you're unsure where you're registered to vote, if you're registered to vote, or what your polling location is. Another important question when you're making a plan to vote is how you're going to get there. This one is tricky. Transportation to and from the polls should be a much easier question than it is. Some people are able to get into their car and drive themselves. Some people are able to drive themselves, but run into difficulties getting accessible parking. There may not be a proper access aisle that allows them to use a wheelchair lift in their vehicle. Some people don't have a car, not able to drive, and they need accessible transportation in order to get to the polling location. Oftentimes, there are different political parties that offer free transportation to voters. Just because you get a ride from the town Democratic Party or Republican Party doesn't mean you have to vote for them. It's good to know that they often offer rides to polling locations. And if you do need accessible transportation, you have a right to ask what options they're providing for those who need accessible transportation. If you need a ride, figuring that out and figuring out who you can ask to make sure that that ride is accessible to you is an important part of making your plan to vote. Another question to ask yourself is, do I need to take time off of work? Do I need to secure child's care? Unfortunately, we are not guaranteed time off from work to vote. So if you are someone who has a job that has you away and not able to leave and go to a polling location during its operating hours, if they're the same as your job's operating hours, then you maybe need to consider whether you can vote absentee or whether you can drop off your ballot in the mail or at a ballot drop box ahead of time. Similarly, if you do not want to bring your child to a voting location, if you need to otherwise secure child's care, it's another reason to really think through how you are going to be voting. Another question that commonly comes up is that of voter identification or voter ID. So in Connecticut, there are a number of things that you can use as voter identification. You may have an out-of-state license or an expired license. You potentially could use those, especially if you have an additional form of identification that shows you live in this state, in the town where you're registered to vote. Really what a poll worker is going to need is, one, are you who you say you are? Is there some type of identification that provides a photo so that they can confirm that you are in fact the person standing in front of them? And is there some form of identification to show that you are a legal citizen and able to vote, and confirms your address, that you live in the town or city where you are trying to vote? You may hear sometimes people say you have to have a driver's license in order to be able to vote, and that is not true. There's a lot of great information about the different types of identification you can bring that show your name and address, show your signature, show your name and your photo. And if you don't have any of those items, there is a separate process by which you can cast a provisional ballot. That's what it's called. A provisional ballot can be cast by someone who doesn't have some of this information that they need to verify that they are in fact legally able to vote where they are casting their ballot. you may have to sign, you will have to sign an affidavit attesting that you are in fact legally able to vote and properly registering. You may do that through election day registration. And I just share this information because oftentimes someone may think that if they don't have something specific, there is no option. They're out of luck and they're not able to cast their vote at all. There's a lot of great information at voteriders.org. If you're looking for additional voter ID information for Connecticut, they also have voter identification information for other states in the US as well. Could you go to the next slide, please? So those of you who have been to vote in person before, or those of you who have voted absentee before in Connecticut, may have encountered accessibility barriers and may have felt discriminated against on the basis of your disability. And it's important to know that you have the right to file a complaint if your voting rights were violated, and know what your options are to file such a complaint. The SEEC is the Connecticut State Election Enforcement Committee. And the types of complaints that they can receive are those about a polling place being inaccessible. That could include the parking lot, the front door. It could include architectural barriers inside the building where you cast your vote. It could include the voting equipment if an accessible voting machine is not set up, is not available, or if the voter registration process is inaccessible to you. You can file a complaint with the State Election Enforcement Committee and ask them to investigate and redress the accessibility and voting rights violations that you've alleged in your complaint. Another option is to file with the United States Department of Justice voting section. It is a specific section within the Department of Justice that enforces the civil provisions of the federal laws that we talked about at the beginning of the webinar. This includes not only the ADA and HAVA, Help America Vote Act, it also includes additional federal laws like the Voting Rights Act, UACAVA, the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, the National Voter Registration Act, and other similar civil rights acts that protect the right to vote. DOJ encourages anyone with a complaint that their voting rights have been violated to contact them and file a complaint. Unlike the Connecticut State Election Enforcement Committee, there is not a specific complaint form that has to be used. There is no set procedure that is required. There's a toll-free number that a voter could call, or they could write by mail or by email to describe the voting rights violation they experienced and to ask the Department of Justice to investigate. The Department of Justice has done some great investigations and voting rights enforcement in the New England area. They recently had a investigation and positive outcome where the state of New Hampshire and the Department of Justice Voting Rights Section agreed to fix accessibility barriers for voters with disabilities in New Hampshire. Could you go to the next slide, please? This is a somewhat shameless plug. There is going to be a candidates forum specifically on disability rights issues. So the candidates forum is nonpartisan. It is an opportunity for candidates or their surrogates who are running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, and for the United States Congress to answer questions about disability rights issues like competitive integrated employment, transportation, accessible housing, accessible health care, and similar disability-related issues. It is going to be on Wednesday, October 12th from 2 to 6 p.m. There will be limited space for people to attend in person, and there will also be an option to attend via Zoom. Pre-registration is required, and DRCT will certainly be sharing information on how to register in the near future, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned it so that everyone could hold the date. In addition to making your plan to vote and figuring out where, when, and how, it's also helpful to know who the candidates are and what their positions are on issues that are important to you, so that when you go to vote for them, you know who you want to vote for. So please save the date if you are interested in joining the candidates forum and hearing from the candidates or their surrogates what their position is on issues that are of particular importance to the disability community here in Connecticut. Okay, if you move to the next slide, I think that's the last one. I'm happy to spend the last 5 minutes answering questions that anyone may have about their right to vote, their right to file a complaint, or anything else that we've touched on during the presentation that they wanted to ask more about, or any sort of response or reaction to the information shared today. You're welcome to use the raise hand feature. It's under the reactions button. And you're also welcome to use the chat. Kathy, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm actually wondering, is that video that you premiered at this webinar going to be made available on DRCT's website or other channels? Because I would love to be able to share that with folks all across Connecticut.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be shared on our website, on DRCT's website, and on DRCT's YouTube channel. And we would love for our partners like CLRP to share it widely, because the more people in our community who know about what their rights are and how to protect them, the more we're going to have voters with disabilities be enfranchised and be able to exercise their right to vote. Well, I don't know if there are any other questions. I also want to give Kathy and Bonnie an opportunity to jump in before we wrap up, if there's anything that they would like to add. And if not, then we can perhaps end a little bit before 4. Please know that if you do have any questions or encounter any issues, you're welcome to call Disability Rights Connecticut. Bonnie or Kathy, I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to add.
I think I would just add is I hope that people, I guess I should turn my video on, sorry, is that people with disabilities really are a very significant segment of the population here in Connecticut. I believe we represent 20% of the adult population in Connecticut. And if we raise our voices to be heard and communicate what we are looking for going forward by exercising our right to vote, I think it's really goes to the benefit of everyone.
And I would just like to add that, despite all the barriers that are put up for people with disabilities, it is so critical to vote, more critical this year than ever. And we say that every single year. So if you are encountering a barrier or you feel like you will, please reach out to any of the organizations and we can help guide you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of you for attending today. We will be making the PowerPoint and the video available And of course, reach out to any of our organizations if you think we can be helpful.
And Mike, do you have anything else?
Sure. Well, thank you. This ends today's presentation. So I'd like to thank all our speakers for today's discussion, and I'd also like to thank all our attendees for joining us as well. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.